Welcome to the Three Martini Lunch. Grab a stool next to Greg Columbus of Radio America and Jim Garrity of National Review. Three Martinis coming up.
Hey, it's Friday. We've made it again. Thank you for joining us on the Three Martini Lunch. Your stool is ready. We actually have a good martini today, along with the really bad one, and a definite crazy to follow up on our bad martini from Thursday. Jim, we started off with a brief preview of the draft yesterday. And of course, it's just round one last night. The Jets were busy, had 3 picks. You picked a cornerback, a wide receiver, and an edge rusher. And by all accounts, people are pretty impressed with what the Jets pulled off. I got to say, I was very familiar with Garrett Wilson since he played for Ohio State. Glad he's not there anymore. You picked a corner with a nickname of Sauce. Anytime a cornerback has a nickname like that or a wide receiver, you know he's got some swagger and you hope it's been well earned. So, you know, he can kind of be that isolation guy and shut down a corner of the field. So I think that bodes well for you.
Yeah, I had been perfectly fine with the Sauce Gardner choice. I wouldn't have minded one of those edge rushers that was there earlier. That's just the way the board breaks down, and it's a perfectly justifiable choice at 4. They get to 10. In all the simulations, I'm always playing with trading down or something. And Wilson, the receiver, first of all, I keep calling him Matt London, and I realized I did some writing for Matt London over the Daily Mail, and that's why I keep calling him Matt Drake London of USC. But the Falcons snatched him up. I think I liked Jameson Williams a little bit more, but Wilson's going to be awesome. And, of course, this now creates the Wilson to Wilson, So we're like, okay, it's a pretty good night. We had a 4, we had a 10. And then Joe Douglas, who, for all of his other flaws, keeps finding these fascinating ways of doing these trades and getting huge value, gets to move up again because Jermaine Johnson, who most folks said is the 3rd or 4th best edge rusher in the class, who probably would have been an early pick for 4 and maybe a little bit of a stretch at 10, although a lot of folks had the Jets picking him, was now stretching into the 20s. And apparently Douglas kept reaching out to every team. Do you want to trade? Do you want to trade? Do you want to trade? We want to get in there. And so they got a guy who I think most people had ranked as a 11th best or 10 to 15th best player in the draft in the mid-20s, and they basically just had to swap some later picks. It really was now I've got the smile on my face this morning, and they still have the 6th pick tonight, and then they don't pick again until like 101 or something like that. But when you have 4 picks in the top 40, you really got to come away with some really good players.
Yeah, you would certainly hope so. 2 quick observations for me. As I mentioned yesterday, the Bears did not have a first-round pick due to a trade they made last year, but that's why I love the Bears' first round. They're always costing themselves a lot of other picks to move up to get a different pick, Trubisky. And so the fact that they actually want to keep their draft picks further down and actually build the team through the draft, I'm actually pretty happy about that. Also, Jim, I think it would have been a fun experiment since 5 defenders from the Georgia Bulldogs national championship team went in the first round, and the guy that a lot of folks think was their best player is still on the board. I think it would have been a great experiment if one of these teams had just swapped out their entire defense, brought in the Georgia Bulldogs, and see how they did. I mean,
that might have been the plan for some teams. Yeah, a phenomenal one. And I know they don't do this sort of thing, but wouldn't you have been fun to watch like the number 1 college team play? I guess the Jaguars were the worst team last year, but even that, like a lot of that we got to put on coaching. But just like if you inaugurated a game which the national champion, college team played the worst team in the NFL, just to see how it's going, it'd be kind of fascinating to watch.
That'd be interesting. That'd be really interesting. That defense, I think, could have given the Jaguars' offense some fits and starts. I'm not sure about the Bulldogs' offense hanging in there, but nonetheless, a lot of guys who are really good, getting paid well, and it'll be fun to see them in the league. All right, on to our actual job. That's the good, bad, and crazy martinis. And Jim, by just about every account, the House is likely to flip to the Republicans come the November midterm elections. Nothing, of course, is guaranteed, but between redistricting and, just the atmosphere in the country right now, the general trends against a president and his party, things are looking good for Republicans there. I've been a little more skeptical about progress in the Senate. It just seems like the ones that are competitive are seats we already hold, guys retiring, Ohio, Pennsylvania, that sort of thing. Democrats have some important seats to hang on to. Arizona, Georgia, I think Nevada is surprising a lot of people that it's going to be competitive. But Democrats are very pessimistic about this right now. A guy named Simon Dem in Bazelon, writing for Matt Iglesias, thinks that the Democrats are likely to lose 3 to 4 Senate seats this year. And then in 2024, looking at that map, he thinks there's a good possibility they could lose 6 more. And if you lose that many, of course, there's a couple others that could end up on the bubble. And if you lose a couple more, all of a sudden, if the Republicans win the presidential race and also keep the House, all of a sudden you're potentially looking at a supermajority in the Senate. My natural nature, Jim, is to never be that optimistic. I think I would just like to get the majority first and then work on other growth from there. But if the Democrats are that pessimistic publicly, that's got to be a pretty good sign.
It is. And it's really kind of intriguing. Again, as listeners, as you just heard, Greg's a Bears fan. I'm a Jets fan. Optimism doesn't come naturally to us. It's not our default setting. And so, and I think the point worth keeping in mind here is that these are projections based on the historical patterns in states. Candidate quality matters. Missouri was drifting really red, and then Todd Aiken come along. Nevada was drifting red, even though Harry Reid had a lot of advantages of incumbency. You can come up with examples here and there of states that are traditionally leaning to one party or another, but you nominate the wrong guy, or maybe you could point to Ohio, Sherrod Brown, a Democrat who manages to keep winning. Usually he's running in good years for his party, and he's lucked out in that sense, but also just because sometimes you have a really good candidate. So it's not, by no means a certainty, but when he says, after 2024, Democrats could have, between 39 and 41 seats in the Senate, and, that this is not somebody who naturally wants his party to be in this situation, then yeah, we should sit up and take notice. And I hope that Republicans, because we know that having having all 3 branches of government doesn't happen very often. Divided government happens pretty frequently. And then the next thing is that you very rarely keep united government for very long. Democrats had it during the first 2 years of the Obama administration. Republicans had it first 2 years of the Biden administration. And then if you have it, you still have the problem of the filibuster and the fact that you've got enough votes to pass stuff, but you don't have a filibuster-proof majority. If by some miracle Republicans end up having a filibuster-proof majority starting in January 2025, boy, they better be ready to get stuff done. No dilly-dallying, no sitting around, no taking this majority for granted. You better be ready to enact a full-throated, full-spectrum reform agenda. And hopefully, not just well, this is our chance to ram everything through. Hopefully, you have the ability to say, this is really in the best interest of the country. We really think this is going to help everybody, not just our preferred, the demographics that vote for us. We hope Democratic senators will join us in this. We hope that a couple of you would say, hey, this is going to be good for my constituents. This is an important goal. We're going to do this. And whether it's securing the border, or whether it's simplifying the tax code, whether it's helping with addiction issues, whether it's making sure that our military is prepared for the threats that are coming down the road, whatever your priority is as a conservative, as a Republican, I hope you've got those policy proposals, those white papers, those legislation ready to go. Because opportunities like that, as we know, almost never come along, and this would be extraordinary. That's one of the reasons I don't think it'll happen. But the idea of Republicans putting together a good 2022 midterms and then a good 2024 are not crazy impossible. And the irony is, other than losing the presidency, which is a big deal, but in the House and in the Senate, it wasn't that bad a year for Republicans. And the Senate, having lost the Senate, was only 50-50. Usually when you don't control the Senate, you're starting with a deficit of a couple of states, and you got to win a couple of races in order to get back just to 50-50. So that's what has this weird set of circumstances. Republicans are the minority party on paper, but the Senate's split 50-50. So instead of dreaming of winning 15 seats over the next 2 cycles, they just have to dream about winning 10. That's not easy, but it's conceivable, particularly, when you have the idea of a really good year this year, and hopefully you nominate the right person and the country's in the right mood and everybody's feeling great. And we all know the problems Democrats have of, is Biden going to be able to even function and run for another cycle? Does Kamala Harris look appealing? No. Do you have some other person on the bench who's ready to go? It's conceivable Democrats could have all kinds of problems on this. So there's something to think about here. I think you and I would very much agree. Don't put the cart before the horse. But keep this in mind and recognize, all right, maybe there's something coming together that could be I don't know if I want to say once a century, but once every couple decades kind of opportunity to really, alter the policy of this country, adjust the size of government, eliminate parts of the government we don't like, create new programs where we think they're needed, and just completely, enacts a Republican agenda in ways that has not been done probably since the glory days of Ronald Reagan.
Well, that would be great. I would love to see that, and I'd love to see that soon. There's plenty to undo, not only from this administration, but also previous years. And we're going to know who these candidates are soon. This coming Tuesday, Ohio's Senate primary. A lot of attention on that race. 2 weeks after that, Pennsylvania. That's a big race as well. Then August 2nd is a huge day. Missouri and Arizona. So very important. New Hampshire is going to be an important race too. So we will see. We will know what these matchups are very, very soon. So in the meantime, rest up, because it's going to be a busy midterm season. And for that, you want the fantastic products from MyPillow. Fantastic sheets, the pillows themselves, mattress topper, the whole deal. But don't forget about the fantastic MyPillow 6-piece towel set. I love the towels. They're so soft and fluffy. They get me dry super quick. They hold up very well, wash after wash. And right now, this 6-piece towel set, usually $109.99, now only $39.99 a set.
You know, Greg, the stakes are high in this midterm election cycle. You'll be feeling the heat, you'll be feeling the pressure, and you'll probably be sweating, much like Jerry Tarkanian. So you're going to need a towel, as Jerry Tarkanian had. So with the MyPillow 6-piece towel set, the towels are made indeed from cotton grown right here in the United States. Now, other towels might feel good, but they don't absorb very well, or they absorb well, but they don't feel good on your skin. They got that lotiony feel. Well, every MyPillow towel is made from proprietary technology that makes them highly absorbent and soft to the touch. Every set comes with 2 bath towels, 2 hand towels, and 2 washcloths. They're available in a variety of colors and sizes. They're machine washable, and they come with a 60-day money-back guarantee and a 1-year limited warranty.
For a limited time, get the MyPillow 6-piece towel set, regularly $109.99 for only $39.99 with the promo code Martini. Visit mypillow.com/martini or call 800-874-0104. You'll also find deep discounts on all MyPillow products, including the MyPillow mattress topper, MyPillow Giza Dream Sheets, and so much more. Get your 6-piece MyPillow towel set for only $39.99 today at mypillow.com/martini. Or call 800-874-0104. One more time, mypillow.com/martini. All right, Jim, you and I already had a pretty strong idea of how poorly, really, I was going to say how well, but how poorly Alejandro Mayorkas is doing his job as Department of Homeland Security Secretary. And this week he was testifying multiple days up on Capitol Hill, and his incompetence or his efforts to obscure his incompetence were on full display. He admitted not building the wall cost taxpayers $72 million. He claims we still have operational control of the border and that his approach has been effective. I'm not sure what the threshold was, but that's, I guess, a little lower than mine. But we've also got some more evidence of just how bad Mayorkas is at this. Yesterday, before the House Judiciary Committee, I think it was, he was asked about the 42 people apprehended at the border who were on the terror watch list. And the question from Jim Jordan was simply, hey, do you know what happened to these people after you caught them? Now listen to this.
Secretary, have any of the 42 illegal migrants on the terrorist watch list or no-fly list encountered on our southwest border been released into the United States?
Ranking Member Jordan, as I mentioned before, I will provide that data to you with respect to the disposition of each one. I do not know the answer to your question.
The Secretary of Homeland Security does not know the answer to the status of 42 individuals who came to our southern border illegally, are on the no-fly list and the terrorist watch list. You do not know of whether they are been released or not into the country. That's your testimony.
Ranking Member Jordan, as I've said before, I will provide you the data. I do
Go
not
back to the
want
general. That's amazing.
But we're not done yet. They know there's a big problem at the border, and guess how they're planning to deal with it? In part, hat tip to Town Hall for this one. During his recent testimony before Congress, Department of Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas informed lawmakers that the Biden administration was considering diverting resources from the Department of Veterans Affairs to deal with Biden's border debacle. This includes not just funding, but also VA nurses and doctors who are tasked with caring for America's veterans and who may now be sent to care for illegal immigrants. Among those pushing back is Iowa Senator Joni Ernst, quote, with a historic crisis at our southern border, President Biden is pouring gas on the flames with his move to lift Title 42, a decision his own administration admits will make the situation even worse. The president taking resources away from our veterans to try and fix the border mess he's created would be unfair and bad policy, and there's no way this administration should be allowed to do it. So, Jim, as bad as this administration is on the border, they always seem to find a way to make it worse.
By the way, for all of our listeners who are saying, oh, if you think DHS is bad, what about the disinformation czar? Trust us. We're getting to it. There's a crazy martini. But for now, I'm just going to observe. Like when you hear House Republicans talking about an effort to impeach Mayorkas, I can understand if somebody's first reaction is, come on, you're not going to do that. This sounds like you're just mad about them impeaching Trump twice and not removing him from office. This is, more of that, oh, you try to take out our guy, we're going to try to take out your guy kind of stuff. But if you really look at the job Mayorkas is doing, it's really bad. And you can argue it may very well be that he is hampered by the rest of the administration. Axios had this really unnerving report that he was telling congressional Democrats that he was deeply concerned about what was going to happen if and when the administration repealed Title 42. Which you hear that, you're like, okay, well, maybe he's a little more realistic. He's not completely oblivious to what's going on, but okay, well, you're the Secretary of Homeland Security. If you think this is a bad move, you got to say it's a bad move. And then in the hearing, he's like, no, we're absolutely repealing Title 42 on schedule in May, just like, we said we were going to. And now you're kind of like, okay, is this another case, as we may have seen in places like our Afghanistan policy, in which there's a policy idea that pops into the president's head and lots of people around him say, this is not a good idea. This is not going to work. This is going to have a lot of unforeseen consequences, or we can see these consequences and they're going to be bad. And it doesn't happen. I understand Mayorkas also was asked, and they said, look, and if you look at the number of contacts of the, Customs and Border Patrol at the southwest border, it spikes in May 2021. Okay. Pandemic's starting to, fade a bit. People are getting vaccinated, things like that. And it just jumps, and it basically has stayed there. And I think last month was the highest, it was something like 223,000. I mean, and I think it might have been Jim Jordan, where somebody else is like, do you think any of your policies, maybe even just a little bit, had some impact on this? And he's like, no. So he's sticking to this is just the regular seasonal pattern that continues all year long. This is really bad. And it's the only thing I can think of that would be more likely to get people to say the Department of Homeland Security secretary has to go is, God forbid, some terrible terrorist attack. That might be the sort of, because other than that, this has been a really bad administration on a whole bunch of fronts, and Mayorkas has been particularly bad on this. He's not good at the communication. He's not good at the construction of the policy. He's always out there lamely spinning and defending things that really cannot be defended on the face of them. And you see it in the reaction of moderate Democrats, everybody from Kelly to Hassan. I keep calling her Hassan, and my apologies for that. But I would learn how to change it, Greg, but I don't think she's going to be around very long. If not, the House, if the House and Senate could say to the administration, he's not getting the job done, you probably want to find a backup. Yeah, if that would work, fine. But clearly, that's not going to happen. Clearly, there's nothing that has happened so far that has shaken the administration's faith in him. And I feel so far, just as with Obama, who oversaw, colossal screw-ups under Kathleen Sebelius and healthcare.gov, but she was HHS. Shinseki, when he was at the Department of Veterans Affairs, when they had veterans dying waiting for care. There was a whole sense of you never get rid of your people. You always stick up for them and defend them. And I think Biden is of that same mentality. And the problem is that he put in a situation in which no failure is big enough to get you dismissed. So the Republicans in the House and Senate really have no choice. Like, if you're not going to get rid of this guy, we're going to take the action we can to try to get rid of this guy. I don't know if it's going to succeed, but at minimum, if it increases the pressure on Mayorkas to say, look, this is not working at all. He's not getting the job done. There's absolutely a need for a change. Find the backup quarterback, to continue our draft talk, and put in somebody else, because this is you can't address the failure until you recognize the failure. But then again, Greg, who knows how much Joe Biden is recognizing these days?
Oh, that's a big part of it. I think he's also doing what they want him to do. So I don't know how they can make the argument that he's needs to be replaced by somebody who else is going to do what they want him to do. I don't know. But this is an administration who's failed in so many ways. But on this particular issue, it's just egregious every single day. All right, Jim, on to our crazy martini now. And yesterday we were talking about Mayorkas announcing the creation within the Department of Homeland Security of the Disinformation Governance Board. Well, that doesn't sound Orwellian at all. And the new disinformation czar is Nina Jankowicz. And we talked yesterday a little bit about how, she doesn't exactly seem to be the most neutral arbiter of these sorts of things, from Hunter Biden's laptop to a lot of other things. We found another tweet of hers that involves a video, and she's talking about disinformation. This is from February 2021. And she is talking about the Ukraine Trump situation to the tune of Mary Poppins. You don't get the full effect of this without seeing the video, because the look on her face is troubling, to say the least. But this is her putting the details as she sees them from the Ukraine impeachment issue to the tune of supercalifragilisticexpialidocious.
When Rudy Giuliani shared that intel from Ukraine, or when TikTok influencers say COVID can cause pain, they're laundering disinfo and we really should take note and not support their lies with our wallet, voice or vote. Oh, information laundering is really quite ferocious. It's when a huckster takes some lies and makes them sound precocious by saying them in Congress or a mainstream outlet. So disinformation's origin seems slightly less atrocious. Whew.
Jim, as you like to say, we're in the very best of hands.
Now, there are two giant problems with this, and I'll get the easy one out of the way. Actually, no, let me do the slightly harder one. The first is, so I've heard a couple of different descriptions of just what this, really unfortunately Orwellian named Disinformation Governance Board is going to do. But when you pick the name Disinformation Governance Board, it sounds like this is a board that is going to govern the disinformation that is put out by the Biden administration, as I joked earlier. But what's more is, like, okay, so the first description was it was going to try to deal with disinformation about who the U.S. was allowing into the country that was causing migrants to come north. You may remember way back in the Obama days that there was the permisos, right? There's this, it's okay for children to enter the United States now, and so send your kids up here. And that was one of the things that caused giant waves of migrants back then. So if the Department of Homeland Security wanted to say, we're establishing a board whose job is to spot disinformation like this, refute it, dispel it, push back on it, and hopefully this prevents people from signing on with coyotes and human traffickers to say, oh, please get me to the United States. Fine. As I don't really trust this administration to do this. I don't really trust I don't believe you when you say that's what this is going to be. In theory, that would be a good thing to try to do. But it also says it's there to, quote, monitor and prepare for Russian disinformation threats as this year's midterm elections near and the Kremlin continues an aggressive disinformation campaign around the war in Ukraine. Well, it means you got a U.S. law enforcement agency that presumably will be looking at sources of Russian disinformation spreading on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and other forms of social media and things like that. This is, so this is getting into the really constitutionally tricky situations. If you say something, Biden's dumb, or whatever, and it happens to line up with what Russian troll farms or Russian, state media is saying, Biden is dumb. Are you promoting Russian disinformation, or is it just what you genuinely think, right? There's this very blurry lines, very tough area where you're like, oh, I don't know if I want the federal government looking at people's social media feeds, trying to pick out things that it has decided are Russian disinformation, and then presumably trying to take some sort of action like shut down accounts and stuff like that. I think people would say this is not, a lot of people would wonder if this isn't a hacking, right? This isn't, Russians trying to get into secure U.S. government systems or something like that. This is basically Russia puts out propaganda. I don't like Russian propaganda. I did a whole presentation over in Austria about Russian propaganda, but I don't know if I like the idea of the U.S. government going after Americans in an effort about Russia. What I like to do is go straight against the Russians themselves. And by the way, when I say Russia, you can insert China, Iran, North Korea, any entity that's running around trying to put out propaganda to American audiences. Now, we've done this before. In the Trump administration, that was allegedly buddy-buddy with Vladimir Putin and, in the pocket of the Kremlin and all that stuff. Well, right before Election Day 2018, the U.S. Department of Defense's Cyber Command started sending text messages, emails, and pop-ups to Russian operatives who were, spreading this kind of stuff. and basically saying, you are being monitored, right? Kind of this like, hey, we know who you are. We know what you're doing. We're watching you and we can find you, right? Now that obviously did, if it had a deterrent effect, it didn't have a huge deterrent effect. This is what the Internet Research Agency in St. Petersburg is designed to do. But here's the amazing thing. On Election Day 2018, the trolls showed up to work and nothing worked in the office. They could not access the internet. And for 2 days, they couldn't get into any of their social media accounts. Now, Greg, I don't know who did this. It could have been anyone. But I don't know. The lights might have been on late in the office in the U.S. Cyber Command that day. I don't know. We're never going to know who did it. Could have been the boogeyman. Could have been the Loch Ness Monster. Or maybe it was America. But anyway, the point being is that we can shut them down if we want to. Maybe not permanently, but we can do that kind of stuff as clear messages of we can reach out and get you. And I imagine it's conceivable we could probably do more if we wanted to. Now, you might say in ordinary times, yeah, but that's really kind of provocative and, that's undoubtedly going to really anger the Kremlin. And, Greg, we really can't risk ruining our good relationship with Russia right now, right? So my attitude is if you're really worried about Russian disinformation, go after the source. Nobody worries about the constitutionality of going after the Internet Research Agency in St. Petersburg or something like that. There's no messy First Amendment, is this okay, is this censorship sort of thing. But here's the thing. If you are going to make a serious effort to go after disinformation from the Department of Homeland Security, then whoever's running it has to be purer than Caesar's wife. You need somebody who is absolutely trusted, somebody who has not just impeccable, credentials, but someone who's, left, right, and center. Everybody looks at this person and says, yeah, they're going to give my side a fair shake. And I'm sorry, this woman is not that person at all. I do think the musical numbers look a little silly and juvenile and don't look, but we all do things the thing is we all do like silly or goofy things in other circumstances. She's chosen to do this and put this out on social media and, on TikTok and stuff like that. And that, I guess, as a component of her public professional persona. And it just doesn't, just between that and all the other things she has said, which were, dismissing the Hunter Biden laptop story, saying it's a fairy tale, saying that Trump colluded with Russia. There's a whole bunch of comments on her that make her look like a standard issue partisan hack. And you can work in government if you're a partisan hack. I don't like it, but that's been around for a long time. But you can't work in a job like this that involves U.S. law enforcement and potential censorship with a reputation like that. Sorry, doesn't work, can't work. This is going to raise a firestorm. I can't believe they're going ahead with this. And it's a little unnerving that nobody in the Biden administration could foresee the problem of asking this woman to do this job.
No, I think you're exactly right about that, but I'd take it a step further. I don't think the job should exist. I don't think the board should exist. This is just asking for trouble. This is just a bad idea from start to finish. But Jim, still yet to be finished, the NFL draft. Good luck to the Jets. Good luck to the Bears as they actually get things rolling tonight. And we'll see where we stand next week. You're actually going to be out the first few days of next week. So it's not a vacation, but good luck with your work that's taking you away from the podcast. And we'll see you later next week.
Gallivanting all around. And hackers, please do not disrupt the U.S. transportation network next week. Or if you're going to do it early, so I'm not somewhere when it all happens.
Jim Garrity, National Review. I'm Greg Corombos, Radio America. Thanks so much for being with us today. Do subscribe to the podcast if you don't already. Tell a friend about us as well. Thank you so much for your 5-star ratings and your kind reviews. Get us on your home devices. All you have to say is play 3 Martini Lunch podcast. Follow us on Twitter. He's at Jim Garrity. I'm at Dateline_DC. Have a great weekend, and please join us on Monday for the next 3 Martini Lunch.
This week on the Federalist Radio Hour. Although I also think it's interesting that this experiment has kind of played out over the course of the last 10 to 15 years. And if anything, it gives us more evidence that our culture of free speech was not a weakness. In fact, the alternative creates a much weaker culture, at least relative to the past. But this is exactly, I think, why I am not fundamentally optimistic about Musk. And again, we have all of these reasons that this is good and that this is bad. And I think it is certainly better than the alternative. There's no question about it. I'm Emily Jashinsky of The Federalist. Subscribe to The Federalist on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts.